Congratulations if you're holding on in these fantasy playoffs. We got all the details, everything you need to know so you can get to that chip. The Fantasy GOAT starts right now.
This is the Fantasy GOAT, sponsored by Casablanca Resort and Casino, like Vegas used to be.
Welcome, kids, into the Fantasy GOAT. I'm Mike Davis. That's Jason Feinberg. Jason, fantasy playoffs, it's always a nerve-wracking time.
Yeah, it really is, but it's an exciting time, and if you did make it to the next round, I know that's all I'm thinking about this week is the next round.
Who cares about Christmas and the holidays, New Year's? It's all about fantasy football playoffs. But let's kick off livestock right now with a very interesting game. A lot of disappointments for these stud players on Philadelphia and Dallas. I mean, let's just take a look at how these teams performed with their stud fantasy players. Jalen Hurts, 21 points. Dak, 6 points. Swift, 8 points. Tony Pollard, 6. A.J. Brown, 8 points. C.D. Lamb, decent game, 15 points. He got in the end zone. But Devontae Smith, Jake Ferguson, Goddard, all really disappointing games. And it must have hurt a lot of fantasy managers in the playoffs.
Yeah, I needed Devontae Smith to have a not even a huge game, just a decent game, maybe a touchdown and 80 yards, let's say. And not even close. And you know what? Going into it, I didn't even have a good feeling.
You didn't feel it. Yeah,
no.
You were telling me you didn't feel good about it.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. I mean, it's one of these predicaments where you have to kind of go with the studs that got you to that place. You're not going to start taking A.J. Brown out of your lineup even if you don't have a good feeling. You know, it's just how it is. So it's a weird time. Another weird thing this season, Raheem Mostert. Okay, Jason, this guy is number 2 in all fantasy when it comes to running backs, obviously just behind Christian McCaffrey. He's got 243.7 points this year, had another great game. Even with Devon Achane back, he hasn't been stopped. So that is a league winner. Do you have him in any league?
I don't. I don't have Mostert in any leagues, but the big difference between him and Christian McCaffrey is we spent a first-round pick on McCaffrey, whereas Mostert was a token pick. It was, I think, was it Jeff Wilson that was getting all the play?
Exactly.
I think
him, Achane. I mean, there was a combination. So
Mostert was sort of like, give me a Mostert.
Right.
Yeah.
It was one of those types of guys, and he's balled out. I mean, 20 touchdowns offensively this year. Pittsburgh, for instance, has 20 touchdowns.
Wow.
The G-Men have 18. Carolina has 16, and Gang Green has only 13. So, I mean, this guy's got more touchdowns than teams.
And not only that, but a good chunk of the Miami offense is also succeeding.
Right.
Even with all those touchdowns going to Mostert, Achane still getting you a ton of points, and the wide receivers.
Well, it's not that much because we got to go to our producer, James Edward Barrickman IV, because we had this bet, Jason, as you remember.
Oh, right.
Achane, Mostert. James, tell us what's going on with this bet right now because it's not looking good.
So I will get to that bet, I promise, in 1 second. But Raheem Mostert, 20 touchdowns on the year from scrimmage. That broke the franchise record set back in 1984 by wide receiver Mark Clayton when he had 18.
Wow, I don't even know Mark Clayton. Do you know him?
Not only do I know Mark Clayton, but on Tecmo Bowl, he was a killer for me. Yes, he's very big.
So, it's super impressive for a guy like Mostert who wasn't even a top 100 fantasy guy preseason, going in the 9th, 10th round in a lot of leagues. I was higher on him than that, but not quite this high. But it all took me back, Mike, to that bet we made where it was, after week 3?
You're harkening back to the bet.
Yes, I'm working my way back there. Week 4, we made a bet where you said that Achane would finish above Mostert in the fantasy running back rankings, and I had Mostert. So let's take a look now at how things have played out since we made that bet.
And I got all excited over that big Denver explosion game, remember? So that's what happened. But, okay, what's going on? Of
course, Achane has been injured, right? He's only played 6 games, so that's a bit of a disclaimer. But look at these total points. Achane, 88.6. Mostert, 164.8.
Double.
Total touchdowns. Achane, 5. Mostert, 13, more than double. Total yards, Achane, 526. Mostert 818, and current fantasy rank, Mostert RB2, Achane RB24. So to say the least, Achane has some work to do. But Mike, do you remember what your punishment is if Achane can't make up this ground?
I forgot. What is it again?
Let's just put it this way. I lost to you in GOAT lineup.
Right.
So for that, I got to go to a diner and eat pancakes, 24 for 1 hour. On top of it, this bet, James and I, now what I got to do is I got to bring a doll to the diner with me while I'm having these pancakes.
Oh my gosh. I was going to come visit you, but now I don't know.
I mean,
I have to worry about my rep.
it's going to be a disaster. I hope these pancakes have chocolate chips in it. That's all I can say.
Right.
I wish there should have been a condition on this bet because it's the whole thing with the injury.
Yeah.
You know, the injury is what, if he was healthy, James, you wouldn't be going on a date with a doll. So
but Mostert's usually the one that's not healthy. Like him and McCaffrey have lasted the whole season already. It's miraculous.
The only thing worse that could be going on is if my mom was Zach Wilson's mom.
Yeah.
Let's continue on right now to GOAT Vision because this is livestock because this is what's going on right now. Zach's mom is good. Remember that song? No. Zach Wilson's mom. Let's talk about this. Gangrene. Zach Wilson. Problematic year for him all year long. He plays 22 snaps, has a fumble. Negative 0.96 points if you played Zach Wilson last week. He gets out, exits with a head injury, but the medical staff actually clears him initially, says it's from dehydration, then they classify it as a concussion type of thing. So Zach Wilson's mom goes on Instagram on her story and she starts defending her son like he didn't want to get pulled out of the game, he was having blurred vision, all these types of things. If your mom went on to IG to defend you and you're a professional quarterback, I mean, what does that say about the type of person and player you are?
Sounds like he can have Thanksgiving dinner next year with the DeVitos, you know, because his mom is very close with him. And they're all in New York anyway.
I don't think it's a good look.
Yeah, no.
I think it's a backup QB look.
My mom wouldn't even come to my clarinet concerts in the 5th grade, you know, because I squeaked too much.
You know what? I'm going to try to see if Zach Wilson's mom can go with me to get pancakes next week. That's what I'm going to try to work on. Guys, let's do this. We got to do some hole-in-one player of the week. Okay, so guess what? I mean, it could have always obviously been McCaffrey, but we're going to go with your other boy, Jason, James Cook. He cooked Dallas for 179 yards on the ground. That's obviously a career high. This guy's officially not just Dalvin Cook's brother. He's James Cook. He had 35 fantasy points. He's now running back 5 through 15 weeks. Career game for him, and I love him to keep up this play, especially against the Bolts next week. This is a guy you're riding to the championship.
I am, and you know he did it against Dallas, proving. I think Buffalo was proving a point that, you know, they're for real, and they're just, I mean, Josh Allen barely threw the ball because Cook ran it the whole time, and that was on a good run defense.
Exactly,
so,
which is scary. A good defense, and I think he's just going to keep it up. So fantasy managers with him and Mostert, you're feeling very good right now. Coming up after a short break, we got GOAT Vision. It's QB, it's RB time. We got everything you need to know as you try to hold up that trophy in the championship. That's after a short break.
Before we head to break, in Week 16 of 2008, which Carolina running back ran for 108 yards and 4 touchdowns in a loss versus New York? He totaled 34.8 fantasy points and finished as the week's running back 1. The answer after the break. Welcome back. Before the break, we asked you in Week 16 of 2008, which Carolina running back ran for 108 yards and 4 touchdowns in a loss versus New York. The answer, running back D'Angelo Williams, who played for Carolina from 2006 to 2014.
Welcome back to the Fantasy GOAT. All right, Jason, kick us off GOAT Vision QBs. What do you got?
So for this coming week, I have to. Trevor Lawrence may or may not play, so I'm detouring to Baker Mayfield, and I really think that he deserves a start on my team, along with a lot of fantasy teams, for what he's done. It's almost like he left Cleveland, which is kind of he was with Los Angeles too, but Cleveland was the big place. But I have a short leash for guys that spend more time doing commercials and endorsements than actually concentrating. I feel like he's he also believes that, and now you don't see him on TV as much, and he's focusing, and he's found the right team and the right chemistry. So I'm really high on Baker Mayfield and I'm going to play him.
I like that. He's got a lot of good weapons there.
Yeah.
Who are you not feeling so much?
Well, I'm just going to put these two together. I already put them together for Thanksgiving dinner next year or Christmas dinner this year, but DeVito and Wilson were both Offensive Player of the Week last week, and both of them, as we pretty much expected, we're going to tank this week. So I'm down on both of them.
Okay, not good stuff there. And, me, for who I'm feeling, I mean, Josh Allen, this guy didn't have a great game last week, but even when he has a weak game, 94 passing yards, he still gets in the end zone twice, So, he's got a good game against the Bolts. I think that, I like investing in guys late in the playoffs who have something to play for. The Buffalo's got something to play for. I like him. And this is why you drafted a guy like this. If you took Josh Allen, that means you got him in the first, second, third round.
Right.
You got to play him this week. So I'm feeling that. And, this pains my heart to say, but Jalen Hurts, I mean, rough game. Obviously, he was not feeling great. He was sick. But against Seattle, he just looked bad. The whole offense looks off. And I think you got to play him if you have him.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't be feeling good about it.
Again, just like Josh Allen with the tush push, the brotherly shove, that might get him some points anyway.
Right. So he still had 21 points. Fantasy purposes, it's okay, but I wouldn't be feeling too good about it.
No.
Let's move on right now to running back. So, Jason, for me, this is who I kind of wanted to highlight. Ty Chandler in Minnesota. This guy had 132 yards on the ground against Cincy. It was the first time in a calendar year that Minnesota had 100 yards on the ground.
Wow.
So this guy, a fifth-round pick, waived by New England, really looked strong, and they're still playing for something. So I think him against Detroit, I kind of like to play him,
especially
and
if
see what
Madison
happens.
doesn't play.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's the big factor.
I have to give kudos to both my guys. I had a league where I made it to the next round pretty easily, and none of my wide receivers did anything. I was playing 4 wide receivers, but I had McCaffrey and Cook.
That's lucky.
And that got me easily to the next round. So I'm giving them both props.
Okay, see, that's big. And then for who I'm not feeling, I mean, Breece Hall. It's unfortunate. I know you have him in a league or two. I mean, this guy, if you drafted him, you were hoping he was going to be a stud. And, I mean, legit, he had 7 touches last week. I mean, 2.3 points, 18 yards. Gangrene, they're eliminated from playoff contention.
Yeah.
So you're in one of those pickles now. Do you play a guy who has talent and could get the ball, or do you not play him because they're not playing for anything?
Like I was mentioning during the commercial, one of the rankings that I look at, it's a little reckless in my opinion, but they have him number 1 for this week. I don't know about that. Yeah, I mean, it's a good matchup, but still.
Yeah, I don't know if I'd play him.
So I think this is it for Derrick Henry. I mean, he had 20 carries for 10 yards. Nothing was going in the right direction. We all kind of knew he was missing that one step that he used to have, and I think you're going to see Tajay Spears from here on in. So down on him, but he had a great run. I'd be surprised if he has some sort of comeback. I think you stick a fork in him.
Right, It's interesting stuff.
Yeah.
It's a tough time. I'm telling you, these injuries, playoffs, if you're at this point, congratulations, but there's a lot of decisions to be made. Coming up after the break, we're helping you with those decisions when it comes to wide receivers and tight ends.
Before we take another timeout, in Week 16 of 2002, which New York wide receiver had 10 receptions, 204 yards, and 3 touchdowns in a win over Indianapolis? He tallied 43.4 fantasy points and finished as the week's wide receiver 1. The answer after the break. Welcome back. Before the break, we asked you in Week 16 of 2002, which New York wide receiver had 10 receptions, 204 yards, and 3 touchdowns in a win over Indianapolis? The answer, wide receiver Amani Toomer, who played for New York from 1996 to 2008.
All right, welcome back. So GOAT Vision, wide receivers, Jason. Rookie from USC, Jordan Addison. This guy's been playing great. 26 points last week. Really helped me in one of the leagues I'm in the playoffs. 6 catches, 111 yards. Got in the end zone twice. He's playing for something. Going up against Detroit, I think it could be a lot of scoring going on. Nick Mullins looks okay, so I'm definitely feeling him. The guy I'm not feeling, though, D-Hop. I mean, DeAndre Hopkins, 3.1 points.
Ugh.
He's got to go to Seattle and face, Reek Woolen or Witherspoon, the stud corner rookie, and Will Levis might not play with that lower leg injury. So D-Hop, I'm not relying him on playoffs.
You're hopping off the D-Hop train.
Yeah.
That whole Seattle final drive, they caught everything. Everything, even on defense, they caught the interception.
Exactly.
They were not going to miss, and they were going to win that game against your beloved Philadelphia. But the best of all was the Jackson Smith-Njigba catch in the end zone. Was he USC?
Yes.
He was USC also. Ohio State.
Ohio State.
Okay,
yeah.
Ohio State. You know what? They both always churn out great wide receivers.
Yeah.
So I got to give him props. I mean, I lost, and along with everybody, our bets because of that last play. So props to him, but he owes me a 6-team parlay. And then, I mean, take your pick, Tony or Mooney. They both dropped just the easiest balls. Tony's been doing it all season long, and Darnell Mooney, he dropped the game for Chicago.
Yeah.
And just to add insult to injury, Cleveland intercepted it.
Yeah.
So
it's
on that last drive.
Yeah, I think we can call that a Mooney. Now let's go to the tight ends real quick. Another guy who just, a stud. If you have him on your team, you're probably in the playoffs. Sam Laporta.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, Detroit tight end rookie. Those tight ends from Iowa, they produce them, baby. And this guy, I mean, stud. He officially is the #1 scoring tight end in all of fantasy. More than Kelsey, more than Hawkinson, more than anybody. He had 3 touchdowns last week, 26 points, 5 catches, leads all tight ends with 169 points. I love him versus Minnesota. I think it's going to be great. And the guy I just don't love, who was getting drafted high, is just because I can't trust that Philly offense, Dallas Goedert. So that's just where I'm feeling about those two.
You're really down on your your Philadelphia team there. So I like not so much, you're not going to probably pick him up and play him because you probably have by this point a better tight end. But for next year, this Tucker Kraft from Green Bay. Now, of course, they do have Luke Musgrave, who will be coming back from injury. But if you watch Kraft play, it's pretty exciting. He'll do the high hurdles. He'll run into people.
Yeah.
He's got that tight end mentality. So I like him. And then speaking of bad drops, Robert Tonyan for Chicago. Oh, Justin Fields threw him a ball that was perfect. Nobody was near him. Nobody. And he dropped it, and that kind of just ended the, any type of motivation that Chicago had.
Nothing can go right in Chicago, it seems. Guys, after a short break, of course, we got to break down injuries. We got Dr. Nithin Natwa sticking with us, so we got a lot to dive deep in with him. That's after the break. All right, Dr. Nithin Natwa is with us right now at Fantasy Docs on TikTok and Instagram. A lot of injuries to break down, Doctor. Thanks for being with us. So let's start here. Tyreek Hill, a lot of people depending on him. I know I am. Can we depend on him this week?
I would be very concerned about Tyreek Hill not playing this week or being limited. He had an eversion sprain of that ankle, meaning the ankle sprains outwards instead of that typical inversion sprain where your ankle twists inwards towards that big toe. When you have the kind of sprain that he has, it's much more likely to be a high ankle sprain. And he did come back the game that he suffered that ankle injury, but it sounds more like they might have, given him some Toradol, gotten him back out there. Adrenaline is, a hell of a substance as well, too.
Doc, Devin Achane was doing so well, and then he got injured again, and he was in and out of the lineup. Last week he actually played, but not well and not often. Do you think it's because of the injury?
I was pretty surprised that he ended up playing last week as well, too. This was another player that I thought had suffered an injury that would hold him out. I'm pretty sure he has a turf toe injury, and when that happens, it's basically your foot is planted down. If you imagine this being my big toe, it gets hyper extended upwards and it tears that cartilage that's right at the base of the toe, makes it very hard to push off from. It's a really big deal in these high burst players like running backs, especially the high speed ones like Devin Achane. So with him, I would be also pretty suspicious of him not performing at the top end this week. He still hasn't practiced yet. I'm also putting him on high alert of missing. It's unfortunate because I really thought that he was going to be a comeback player that carried a lot of people to the fantasy football championship.
All right, a lot of good info and insight there. Thanks again, Dr. Nithin Natwa at Fantasy Docs. Jason, after a short break, GOAT lineup, it's kind of like I'm gangrene. I don't even know what I'm playing for anymore, but I might as well try my best. We got that coming up. Welcome back. All right, so Jason, I'm dead in the water when it comes to this GOAT lineup stuff. Like I said, I gotta get my stomach ready for these pancakes. But I did do an interesting thing last week, did the all San Fran team, scored 76 points, had a good showing, Purdy, McCaffrey, Ayuk, Kittle. So it was a good display against, you chose Philly.
Yeah, well, I was inspired by what you chose, and I was like, well, what can I do? Who have I not used yet? And turned out where Philly was the team, but they did not, and you've been talking about it all a half hour long. Your disappointment, well, it shows up on my score because Hurts, Swift, I had to play Smith and not Brown because I've already played him, and Goddard only got me 43 points.
Yeah, not good. And I'm going to keep with this same formula because it's helping me, even though I can't really catch up to you. So I'm going to go Team Buffalo this week. Josh Allen, James Cook, Stephon Diggs, and Dawson Knox because I already used Dalton Kincaid. They play that Bolts team that gave up 63 points to Vegas last week. You were at that game.
Yeah, no, you should be able to win this week as well. However, I am giving you a run. I'm playing Mahomes, McCaffrey. So McCaffrey versus Cook will be either way. I'm rooting for both of them. So I'll do T. Higgins since Chase is out for Cincinnati, and then I talked about Tucker Kraft. I'll give him a shot.
See,
why not?
There you go. That's your boy, Tucker Kraft.
Yeah.
I mean, it's going to be a challenging week. You still got McCaffrey and Mahomes in there, so it'll be interesting to see. But I'm excited for all this action. I just wish I could beat you, but it's not going to happen.
Like I said, I'll probably come visit. Maybe I might eat a pancake to take one off of yours.
I got to figure out what stuffed animal I'm taking. Somebody please help me with this. Maybe I can get like a Jason Feinberg doll or something.
I can just freeze.
Oh, so there you go. I'll feed you a couple pancakes. Guys, good luck in the playoffs. We'll see you next week.
See ya.